regular stream. So, yeah. Hey, everybody. We're not officially like started and stuff. Oh, Great Wolf commented. He says your guest profile picture looks a little bit like Lauren Southern. I don't know if
I
that's
don't know who that is.
some like conservative commentator person, someone in the political
Okay.
realm. But
Okay.
I mean, it is what it is. I bet she doesn't wear a tiara though.
Probably not. No, I think that that's my thing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, everyone, let me know how the sound is going, how everything's working. Seems to be working great on this end, but just, let me know. We'll give people like a couple minutes to start joining in before we start hitting them with all the stuff that they're going to be sad to miss.
Yeah. Right. All the
But
news.
yes, all the hectic, crazy news. Yeah, it's going to be, as I was saying on the off-air part, I've been struggling with open source world today, and I think I'm finally at the end of it. Like, the ability to multi-stream from OBS, it's like a plugin, and the plugin, I had to like compile it from nothing, and then I couldn't figure out how to make it work. And the only way I got it to work is I just started dragging and dropping files into random settings folders and seeing if that worked until I like just guessing, and finally it did. And yeah, I guess here we are. So if you're watching on Odyssey, you guys better be grateful, because holy crap, the stuff I went through for you guys. Just to be like, well, you can't be YouTube only. What if they censor you? It's like, well, yes, that's true. I wish I didn't have to touch YouTube at all. But here we are,
It's where the viewers are. It's just like the reality of it.
Yeah. And like part of the thing is, if I just like, that's part of the reason I do stuff like stream, do stuff like use Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that, is because, well, I'm trying to push the whole world into a more like decentralized, crypto-centric, self-sovereign way. I want to reach them where they're at, because if I'm in this weird little like Fediverse only social media thing, I'm doing like, if I'm doing all that stuff, no one knows I exist, and then they're all out there. So I try to dip in, talk to people, bring them over to that, have my be like a day walker, like what's his name, Wesley Snipes, except hopefully without all like the going to prison for tax fraud and all that. But yeah, try to do something like that. Day walker, foot in each world.
Well, yeah, it's just, we were talking about something similar before we went live, right? It's like, if you're only talking to this one subset of people who already knows what you're talking about, then you're not going to grow. Like, you're not going to reach more people. More people aren't going to come to, like, if everyone who is promoting Odyssey is only on Odyssey, then only the people on Odyssey are going to see them. What's the point of that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we ran this thing long enough. Goodbye, everybody. Just kidding. It's time to run the intro stream, and then we'll go. So, hey everyone, happy Friday. I hope you had a great week. Great way to cap off the week. Don't get too drunk too quickly. This is going to be a meaty show. I'm joined by the one and only Nerd Girl 007, or Nicole Grinstead. How's it going?
I'm awesome. How are you, Joel? Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, no problem. It was a good time having you on last time. That was like years ago, I think, right?
Yeah, it would have had to be at least over 1 year ago, probably a year and a half-ish.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute, that's for sure. But yeah, so thanks for being back on. Before we jump into all the fun news stuff, I'd like to direct you guys' attention to hit that like button, because more people watch the stream if you like, and then subscribe if this is your first time. If you're one of like Nicole's fanboys and you're like, oh, I'm just here watching her stream, well, watch mine too, so subscribe to the channel. Shameless plugs, all those things. Also, I have if you're in my Discord server, and which you can only get into if you have one of my NFTs, you can join the Digital Cash Rundown super chat, and then that'll pop that up on the stream. This is what it looks like right there. See, there's a leftover from last one. But yeah, you can use that and then drop in stuff. And unlike the regular live chats, I will not ignore you if you type in there. And if you don't have one of those, you can go to cointr.ee/the desert links, and then you can just leave a little donation, and then I can pop that one out too. So we can kind of do it that way. So all that being said, yeah, let's get into the news. So first one, let's start with this one actually. BNB. BNB chain back online after suspension due to a cross-chain exploit.
You've got the wrong article up on the screen, unless it changed. I know we are kind of on a lag.
Yeah, I changed it, but it did. I just need to reset it, I guess.
see EU regulators ban cross-border payments from Russia crypto accounts. Okay.
Let me redo this thing right here. This is you have the honor of having the first show where I'm doing the actual news thing, like the actual news screen on there. But anyway, yeah, BNB chain back online after the stuff. The native blockchain behind the Binance crypto exchange is up and running after there was a giant exploit. So for those of us who, weren't paying attention, so BNB is like the Binance chain is one of the famous, I guess, crypto Ethereum killers from back in the day, but the one that really stuck is in when Ethereum became a basically overloaded for what it could take as far as capacity is concerned. Binance Chain was one of those big competitors who just like, oh, it's like Ethereum but cheap. And because it's run by like one of the most powerful exchanges in the world, it ended up having a pretty good market share. One thing that's pretty interesting to look at, if you ever go to cryptofees.info, which is kind of the adoption indicator, the best adoption indicator out there for cryptos. There's no really good one, but that's the best because that's what people are paying to use. BNB, like Binance Chain, is the second one behind Ethereum, usually, as far as total money being spent to use the chain. It's Ethereum, then it's Binance, and then it's Bitcoin. And then you have like Polygon, Avalanche, Solana, stuff like that in there. So, but yeah, they just shut it off. So it's not exactly a super... Well, before I start rambling, what's your hot take on this?
So yeah, I mean, I've been looking into it. I honestly have never transacted on BNB, just to be transparent about it. I don't really have anything against it. I've just never had the need to transact there. So like, but from what I understand, they've always admitted to some degree of centralization, right? There's 21 validators. My understanding of the exploit was that CZ or whoever coordinates with the validators asked the validators to stop validating transactions temporarily, and they did. And it was relatively easy to do because there's 21 of them, right? I know that like that's not perfect decentralization, but it's better than there being a single point of failure or 3 points of failure. Not to be like, I don't know, a BNB or Binance apologist or like sympathizer, but because they did that, fewer people lost their money. Like, doesn't that have to have some merit? And most of the criticism that I've been seeing or reading about this is related to, concerns about it being centralized. So like I said, it's not like that's new information. It's not like anybody ever said BNB is a completely decentralized network. That's always been discussed, talked about, even acknowledged. Yeah. And like a lot of the discussion about, well, it's centralized, it's the reason that people are saying that it's centralized is because over 50% of the token's supply was allocated to VCs. But like centralization, like there's this whole, I don't know, notion about what decentralization really is. And like people seem to conflate the decentralization of infrastructure and like transaction nodes with the centralization of supply. And like, if you really look at centralization of supply, nothing is decentralized. Like, look at Glassnode data, and you can see for yourself that over 40% of Bitcoin is held in 2,000 wallets, and 2% of the addresses hold more than 90% of the circulating supply.
Yeah, that is something that's it's an uncomfortable truth kind of thing. I do think that criticisms of, or commentary, I should say, around Binance Chain being centralized or whatever is valid, but it's also worthy of pointing out context, right? About the supply centralization is a big thing that I think every crypto project has. And honestly, I do believe every crypto project will always have. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think it'll ever always be bad, but it won't ever be good, really.
well, that's like saying, like, you know, the redistribution of wealth, right? Like, what is it? The top 2% of the world controls, you know, 99% of the money supply. And like, that's, I mean, maybe we can change that a little bit, right? Like, that would be the goal, would be to improve that, but it's not just going to completely change, right? Like,
Yeah.
people do conflate decentralization of infrastructure with decentralization of ownership, and that's wrong.
Yeah. Now the thing that's beyond supply, which supply decentralization doesn't matter as much in stuff like Bitcoin because it's proof of work. In proof of stake, it does because it has something to do directly with consensus. The thing with Binance Smart Chain is allegedly structured. First off, we don't know how it's structured because, from what I know, it's closed sourced. It's not like Ethereum or something that's open source. But the thing is, like, the structure seems like a decentralized mirroring structure, sort of. Like, it seems like something like it's structured like a decentralized blockchain, right? It just what we're seeing in this case, again, there could be some extra sauce under the code that, like, we just don't know about because it's closed source. But where we're mostly seeing is just collusion amongst major actors to reverse the chain. And that can happen in pretty much any otherwise fully decentralized thing. Like, lest we forget about CZ, when the first, like, when the Safu meme started coming out and all that, when Binance lost all that money, he had that hot mic moment where it's like, oh, we're just gonna, like, roll back the Bitcoin blockchain. Well, I got some miners. I'm gonna on the phone. I'm gonna talk to them, and everyone lost their shit. And he's like, oh yeah, just kidding. It's actually, we can't do that. But it was like a moment of clarity that probably at that moment he and his friends had enough ability to, like, roll back the Bitcoin blockchain at that point. Probably. Again, this is a lot of conjecture going on here, but that's why y'all tune in anyway, right? But that's probably true.
And the Bitcoin blockchain has been rolled back, right? And then even, like, you know, even Ethereum is something where, in 2017, 2016, right? Where, I guess, they didn't roll back the chain, they basically forked it and, you know, started over. So, I mean, you can criticize it, like, but it's not particularly different or unique from things that people want to say are better.
Yeah, it hits that point where we go to, like, key value proposition. The thing that I like about crypto is anyone can use any crypto they want if they don't like this one, they switch. In my view, that's the biggest decentralization factor. It's not the decentralization of individual chains, although I do like that as well. It's just the fact that this one sucks, I use that one. Now, the thing that we're seeing with that is clearly the users of Binance Chain, I mean, hopefully, are happy with the way things are going, that they got their money back. And the trade-off with that is that it is a chain that can be rolled back by, I guess, centralized authority, or maybe just a cartelized authority, depending on, like, again, we're splitting definitions here, but it's something that can realistically be rolled back in a relatively short period of time. And that is something that is either a feature or a bug, depending on your perspective, right? A lot of people use banks or they use credit cards because they know that they can always, like, reverse a payment or do a chargeback or whatever. But then on the other hand, people like stuff like gold and cash because it's final, and people will give cash discounts for some things, for example. And so it's kind of all about that. Binance Chain chose its path as far as which way it's going to be, and I think that something like Bitcoin, if they tried to do something like that, I think that they would be stuck because of their branding and their value proposition to not do something like that, or also possibly, ideally design it in a way that that's impossible or very difficult, but that's an ideal circumstance.
I totally agree. But I mean, I feel like people are making this like a really big deal. Like nobody knew that this could happen or that this would happen, when that's not at all the case. Like it's been known that it's not like this is a secret. And I do think that probably most people who use BNB are pretty happy with the outcome. And really, when you look at things like mass adoption and, like as crypto becomes appealing to a broader audience, what kind of things does a broader audience want? This kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, not to muddy the waters on that a little bit, but there's also something, the Bitcoin Association, the BSV people, released some sort of tool to allow miners to basically freeze funds or reassign people's funds and it's talked about in case of like a government court order or something, that they'll be able to like recover thefts and stuff like that. And I got into some discussions about it for a variety of reasons, but yeah, basically that makes it now not supposedly immutable. The trade-off now is not immutable. It can be changed. So don't come crying if like the government decides that you're politically infeasible and they pressure miners to take your money away. But on the other hand, for all other purposes until then, if someone steals all your money and you can prove that it was yours and they got stolen, you can probably just get it back, and it's not like, whoop, sorry. What do you think? What's your personal side of preference on this? Because I side on I would like to just, if people steal my money, I'd rather lose my money than have it able to be confiscated by an outside authority. What's your take?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm with you on that front, but I also have to see things from like a realistic perspective, where like this is what the people want, or this is what the people are going to want. And I really think that what we should probably consider is that there's room for both, right? Like it doesn't have to be all this way or all the other way. Maybe you want to hold some of your wealth in a way that you're absolutely certain can't be, taken from you or withdrawn from you or censored or, whatever. But like you maybe want to hold some of your wealth that you transact with in a way that maybe has a little bit less security in some ways, but more security in others. And I mean, most gold bugs still have bank accounts, right? Or like some way that they transact. So I think that a hybrid solution is probably the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's also we're talking about protocol level, like at the root, irreversible or reversible. But there's different levels of what you could do. So for example, one thing that I thought would be interesting. So I'm starting from the irreversible at a protocol level standpoint, but then thinking at the personal level, at the individual level, what are some ways you could kind of mitigate some problems? And so, for example, one thing might be you have like just say you have a joint account with you have an account, but then you trust, let's just say, your partner or your parents or someone else, and so it's like a multi-sig thing. Sure. And so for a certain amount of spending, like under $1,000, for example, if you control your wallet, you can just spend under a certain amount in a certain period. But then if you want to do a bigger spend, it's like a threshold, but up to a certain threshold. But then if you try to spend something bigger, it won't let you. It triggers like a multi-sig event. So then you need to have you have to call up your dad or whatever. Say, hey, Dad, can you sign this really quick? I'm trying to buy this car. And then, he signs it too. And then that makes it harder for people to just steal all your money, even if they get access to your phone, for example. And on the other hand, it might be interesting to implement like a kind of time locked reversible transaction, sort of like I guess the way credit cards work. But basically, if you buy a yacht, right, or a Lambo or one of those things like that, you send them the transaction. Let's just say you open like a bidirectional payment channel with them, and then you don't actually close the channel. You can't close the channel for like a week, and in that time you can reverse it. And so first off, a merchant wouldn't like hand over title to the yacht or whatever until that was completed. But then also if like someone tried to steal your money, just moved it out, you're like, whoa, oh no. And then you get to come together and figure out and recover your phone or whatever else you got to do. And then you cancel the transaction at the end of that, just sort of a fail safe. So like those are two that you could do on that side. I'm sure there's plenty of other like methods of adding kind of safety measures in there without doing at the very top level, the protocol level.
So you're saying there are better solutions?
I probably, or at least there's better solutions on the individual level that have to kind of be thought out. Like, for example, Binance Chain does not have any transaction recovering reversibility thing programmed in. It doesn't.
Right.
It's just that they, at the root, just like started over manually, kind of. They rolled back that part. Whereas it's just kind of like it's complicated to build in things into the protocol that allow for greater granularity of this kind of thing. And I just think that they haven't been focused on that, or they haven't figured it out yet, or whatever. And so that's just kind of the way it is. But I think in the future, adding like some programmatic recoverability on the user side and is probably going to be a big thing, because I don't think people are going to want, I think that people are going to, transactions in the fiat world, I believe, are going to become reversed and censored at a much higher rate over time. And so that creates the scarcity of money that you control. And so that's going to increase the demand and therefore the value of that stuff. But people are not going to just want like, all right, so someone hacked into my phone, I just lost everything and too bad.
Right.
Like, I don't know if people are going to settle for that either. So
yeah, I don't think
something
so.
in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let me see. All right. So next one.
No.
Yes.
Sorry,
yes. It is the next one now. I you're talking to the pupper, but the SEC is bullying Kim Kardashian, and it could chill the influencer economy. The feds should have tried to work with Kim Kardashian to establish more transparent norms for influencers, rather than slapping her with a $1.26 million fine for promoting Ethereum Max. And so basically, Kim Kardashian got, sued by the SEC for shilling some, for lack of a better term, shitcoin. I mean, I don't know, but like also, come on, if it's like an Ethereum knockoff name and no one's heard of it, and no one's heard of it to this day, probably is not that great. I don't know if you have any more knowledge about Ethereum Max.
I don't have any more knowledge about Ethereum Max, but I definitely have comments on this whole topic.
Well, fire away.
All right. So, I mean, like, for one thing, I don't really, this is funny coming from a like marketing and PR agent, right? But I don't really think that I think that within the crypto space, influencers would be much better off just like investing in things that they think are valuable and then promoting those things rather than taking payments for promotions. And I do think that we're probably going to see like some degree of return to that. That was kind of how it all, like, that was sort of the beginning of crypto influencing. That's how it was. And then, of course, the people who did it well, smaller, chains and tokens and whatever, reached out to them and wanted to pay them. And, it could be a lot of money to turn down. So I get it from both perspectives, but like, okay, so I agree with whoever wrote this, who said that they would have been much better off like going to Kim Kardashian and the other influencers who are potentially in trouble for doing this and like sort of coming up with a a standard, like a base standard. This is how we, this is how we're going to handle this moving forward. But they didn't, and that's not how the SEC works, right? They want their money.
Of course.
And then, like, just to kind of get into like what else is happening to change this, like within the industry. I don't know if you've heard of this yet, but do you know who Viral Nation is?
Viral Nation?
Viral Nation,
no,
yeah.
I might have heard the term, but I don't know specifically.
Okay, sure. So I don't work for Viral Nation, just to be clear. I work for Lunar Digital Assets.
SEC, arrest this woman. Sorry.
No, but so Viral Nation is the largest influencer management company in the world. They represent brands like, huge brand, celebrity brands outside of the Web3 space. So they recently started a Web3 division just for cases like this, to help aid in cases like this, to make sure that when mainstream influencers or big celebrities are talking about cryptocurrency, they're talking about it in a way where they're well educated about what it is that they're talking about. And they've like vetted projects in advance to make sure that they're not, going to get in trouble for shilling unlicensed securities. So that's my opinion of like what is the future for the crypto influencer space is, and celebrities influencing within cryptocurrency. Not necessarily that it'll all be Viral Nation, but that there will be agencies that have Web3 specialists who help to explain who help to vet and then explain the various cryptocurrencies that are going to be shilled in a way that the celebrities don't get in trouble.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point of view, because I don't think a lot of people in the crypto space are very familiar with the influencer space. And so the most, like you mentioned before about the old school way of you just buy the tokens and then shill it. Like you buy, like that's kind of what crypto people are used to, and they're kind of there to, they're kind of come to expect that a little bit if they're smart. I mean, last week we did a whole thing about Crypto Lark being sort of busted for shilling tokens and then dumping on people like right after, and that whole thing. So that's like the tried and true crypto influencer way of doing things. But like in the influencer space, like when you go into like Instagram, see some model with some like drink or something, or like I think there's a certain understanding that probably that person isn't an active user of that product necessarily. They just got paid to like hold it, like, oh look, I'm gonna wear this swimsuit, and look, brand, like maybe they wear it, maybe they don't. Certainly they probably don't all drink Bang Energy, but like at the same time, the influencer probably has some sort of an understanding that all these brands are like real things, and they're sort of vetted products to a certain extent, even if they themselves aren't overly familiar with what they're shilling. They at least like, well, it's like, well, I've heard of those companies. I'm sure they're normal companies. I don't mind. Like, I know they're not eating babies in the back or something like that. Like, they're okay. And so I think that when you get approached by
interesting example.
Yeah, well, I mean, sketchy things be happening out there. What can I say?
No, I mean, for sure.
But so when you got some random token coming out and just saying like, hey, you want to shill our token, Kim K, or then Floyd Mayweather did it too, and a whole bunch of people. Yeah. I think they're just like, what's the price? They agree on a price, and that's it. They're just like, sure, I'm into blockchain. I guess I like Web3 blockchain stuff. I like your pitch. Sure, I'll do it. And they don't realize that now it's like what if you shill like a bad energy drink? It's like, still, it's like, oh, whoops, that's a gross drink. Never mind. But if then the SEC is not going to chase after you for that stuff, you're not like promoting. You think you're promoting some cool tech brand, but it's like actually an investment contract with the people, with the it just, and it's not regulated, or maybe it is, and the SEC is also awful at letting the crypto space know the rules to operate in. Again, see Library and Ripple and stuff. But so, yeah, it's kind of an interesting area where there's going to be some people, unfortunately, like Kim K, who get caught in the crossfire, shilling something which shouldn't be a problem, but because the game's different, then, it's different.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that whole like topic of whether something is a security, you know, an unregistered security is like its own thing. And then, you know, undisclosed shilling, right? Like you said, like it's apparent when there's an ad in a magazine that that was a paid placement, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's and the article that you referenced here is like even draws attention to that. Like there's a very obvious distinction, like that's clearly an advertisement, whereas when a celebrity, you know, yeah, posts something on Instagram or Twitter, I mean, I think it's kind of like naive for people to think like, oh, they must really think that this is a great product. Like, I mean, really, like,
Yeah, of
why are
course.
you so dumb? But you know, there is a difference, I guess, like disclosing that you're shilling something for pay versus just doing it and assuming that people know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, if like a server flirts with you, it's like understand that they probably just want tips. You know, it's not like,
Right.
oh wow, like pursuing, like obviously there's exceptions and stuff, but yeah, it's the space has a lot of growing up to do. Hilawe did comment on the previous point about his immutable is key, and yeah, it is for, you know, a lot of those things, which will be interesting to see what happens when you have a new, like a lot of crypto users. They might want completely immutable and censorable money, but they might just not really care that much about, you know, how decentralized or immutable every other blockchain things that they use are. You know, they might just not care as much, and then you have like the old, like the Bitcoin maxi types being like, it's not, you know, it's not perfect, and you know, people don't care. But
No, it's funny. They were like, I was watching before this stream, I was watching some videos that people were making, and it's like all Bitcoin maximalists, but they're actually not criticizing the decentralization of the node infrastructure or the lack of, or the centralization of the node infrastructure. They're actually, you know, criticizing the centralization of the asset ownership. And I mean, like, I feel like that's just like, that's a thing that just like irks me endlessly, is like just at least use this term consistently, you
yeah,
know, or like, yeah, I don't know.
yeah, people are a little weird like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of which and all that, federal regulators are preparing to pass judgment on Ethereum. This is such a weird picture that Cointelegraph picked, but whatever. The Security and Exchange Commission is moving to take action against Ethereum that reaches far beyond America's borders. It goes into a whole bunch of stuff. This is kind of an interesting subject because what the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission thinks of a crypto asset has become such a talking point today. And it's especially interesting because Ethereum was sort of, I forget, Hinman was, I guess, the guy's name, guy who used to work for the SEC. And he famously, at least famously to the crypto world, gave a presentation talking about this stuff where he said that Bitcoin and Ethereum are clearly not securities.
Right.
So he said those things, and I think it was just like, oh, you know, who knows exactly what. But the thing is, now I guess the SEC is moving into a much more regulatory forward position and point of view, let's just say. And they're kind of taking another look at Ethereum, especially with the staking element to it, and sort of starting to reevaluate and see if they want to kind of do that. I've seen a bunch of weird arguments, like saying that they have jurisdiction over Ethereum because the majority of Ethereum's nodes are based in the US right now. And it's just like, it's such a weird thing because if people freak out at that, they can literally just move the nodes out of the country now. And now it's like, whoops, it's not based in the US anymore. And I think we're seeing, first off, I think that Maxis might get upset at me, but then again, they always do. I think Ethereum
Maximalists
is.
aren't watching. Let's just be honest. The maximalists aren't watching.
Yes, that is true. You know, of the few people that are, I definitely don't think that Maxis are amongst them. But
Yeah.
I think Ethereum is kind of the number one crypto right now, as far as, you know, fee consumption for sure, as far as what people are paying to use, as far as stuff built on it, as far as like importance in the crypto space. it's hard to pick a number one, but probably Ethereum, right? And so for the US to start saying anyone who stakes a little bit of Ethereum is now engaged in, or who buys Ethereum is now engaged in buying an illegal security, it could have some giant implications. And I don't know if they'd like to go that far. I think that they would like to go that far if they can, but I think it's going to be a little bit of a battleground around that.
Yeah. So, okay. So a bunch of things, right? Like,
Yeah.
It makes sense that, that the argument is Ethereum wasn't a security when it was proof of work, right? But now that it's transitioned, now post-merge, that it's transitioned to proof of stake, it can be reconsidered. But like that said, I don't feel like there's any way that the Ethereum Foundation, Vitalik, the EEA, that they didn't consider that possibility before they went ahead with the merge, right? Like even discussion that this could happen started before the merge. So I feel like, really real concern about this is like, okay, the fact that this could happen was definitely on people's radar.
Mm-hmm.
So also when we think about Ethereum, right, there are people who are part of the World Economic Forum on the board of the Ethereum Foundation. So you also have to, consider the fact that there are people in really powerful places who don't want, or maybe do want Ethereum to be classified as a security. So like,
I think on both sides of that, yeah.
Yeah. And then, further, like I remember when the merge was going on, there were all of these, Bitcoin maximalists actually like crying to the SEC to regulate Ethereum because now they had the opportunity to do it again, which like I can't stand it. I can't stand it when anyone from one crypto group starts going to, oh, government regulate them, and you're like, do you have no awareness whatsoever?
Yeah. That's kind of like with the whole SEC suing stuff. I've been pretty pro library winning their suit. And then people always say, well, XRP too. And I'm like, yes, I do believe that as well. Although I'm a little saltier because XRP, the Ripple lawyers have alleged that as part of their defense, they say that you should not regulate us because Ethereum and Bitcoin are Chinese coins and they should be regulated. And at that point, I'm just like, oh no, you got really.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I don't like everything that, Ripple, the organization, has done, or, the whatever, I don't know if it's XRP Foundation. I don't like, so I do own some XRP now, but I don't always. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't, but like, I don't, mostly just betting that they're going to win that case. But in any case, like, I don't like everything that they've done. I don't like everything that they've said. I do hope that they're, that they win the suit, mostly because it represents a broader crypto thing. I also kind of understand where they're coming from in pointing fingers at, Bitcoin and Ethereum, because there is sufficient evidence to suggest that Bitcoin, that the Ethereum Foundation or the EEA and some Bitcoin groups heavy-handed the SEC into suing XR Ripple. So, like, I kind of get it. I mean, like, whatever, an eye for an eye and we're all blind, but I kind of understand.
Yeah, that's for sure. Hilawe chimed in again in the super chat thing here. He says, ETH going to staking reversed that statement from that commissioner, from Hinman. He says the next frontier is decentralizing cloud server solutions or somehow obfuscating what's being processed on AWS's infrastructure. Yeah, or using different solutions. But yeah, that's a key point with like the staking thing is if you buy, like, no one can just, it's not that easy to mine, right? Cryptocurrencies. I mean, it's easy to try, but you're not going to get anywhere without like an ASIC. You got to figure out your power consumption. There's a bunch of stuff you got to figure out. And so the thing is, with staking, on the other hand, you just buy some and earn interest off of that. And that, I mean, it's a little more complicated than that, but still, it's kind of like that. And so that makes it very competitive with a whole lot of modern, investment vehicles. And so I think for that purpose, now that you can just do that with Ethereum, you can just, buy Ethereum and stake it, obviously with some constraints and methodology in there, but like that makes it so it's now kind of a threat, I guess. And at the same time, like calling it a security is it's a little weird because first off, there's no central issuing body for Ethereum, for the Ethereum token. When you buy Ethereum, you don't own any right. You don't own any right to returns of money. You have to actually stake it, in which case staking it lets you run a node and the node gets paid. It's not like an investment thing where there's profits. Like, no, you are the business that runs the profits. So like if you had an Ethereum node, if you ran one of those whole nodes, that's like running a infrastructure providing business. And then you kind of pay people for, their service in lending that money to that, for example. And in my view, even though to the naked eye, so to speak, it looks like an investment type thing because you put money in, you get returns. In reality, just because it's all like automated stuff, it's not that way at all.
Right. So it's like what an investment contract it exists when there's an investment of money in a common enterprise with the reasonable expectation of profit to be derived from the efforts of others. But there's no real efforts of others involved in staking. Right? Like that's part of like you earn staking rewards relative to the amount that you have staked and transactions on the network. There's no like efforts of others involved there.
Yeah. It gets a little like that's exactly why we have like court cases and stuff, right? To argue these types of things is exactly because, this kind of stuff gets a little muddy. Speaking of muddy in cases, let's hit on this one. CoinDesk for a change, actually. EU seals text of landmark crypto law MiCA fund transfer rules. Legal text to licensed crypto firms and vet transactions were agreed by national diplomats after political deals struck in June. Now, I read this article and a couple like it. I did skim over the source text of the agreement and kind of found some stuff. But as usual, like with laws, it's sometimes like when it's like a comprehensive framework, it's kind of hard to really super verify everything. But it does appear as if this law, which has been agreed to by the EU, would implement KYC requirements on all wallet providers.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, and that's a little, well, why don't you fire away first while I gather my thoughts?
Yeah, so I actually had real questions for you on this and was hoping that, that you would know, was like, it says that it's going to, that it would require all wallet providers to KYC, but like, does that apply to wallets that are self-custodied or only to wallets that custody funds? Like, and then also, how will they retroactively enforce that for people who already have the wallets and the assets?
Yeah, I guess they could just. The thing is, the problem with like laws like this or proposed regulations at the EU, and then who knows if I don't know too much about how the EU regulations get adopted, but I'm sure that some countries can make a stink about it or just not, enforce things or whatever. But the thing about these is they come up with stuff that sounds interesting, but they're a whole bunch of boomers. And as boomers, they don't get the tech exactly. And they think if you provide a wallet service to people, you're kind of they don't understand like the self-custody thing. It's like, well, you just get to withdraw on your own, but like I don't think they get what that means, that it's just a portal to private keys and you just write some open source code and you just have a wallet. I don't think they get that works. And to that point though, there are some in the crypto world. Obviously KYC is custodial KYC stuff is like the worst, right? In my opinion, at least. But then there's also custodial non-KYC stuff. Like there's a lot of like bots and things like that like are custodial, but they don't verify your identity or whatever.
Sure.
But those would, things like that would definitely, I don't know about like a chat bot or like a tip bot or something like that. But those kinds of things, I think that they would probably start making do KYC. Now, then there's other levels of it, whereas is it like self-custody, but everything is kind of run by the wallet. This especially applies to stuff like a Lightning wallet, for example, where it's technically self-custody, like they can't steal your money, but you do rely entirely on them to provide liquidity and payment channels and all that kind of stuff for that to work. Mm-hmm. And then you get to like just the basic, self-custody L1 wallet, but then you get beyond that to like the SPV, the simple payment verification types, which have a lot, which you have the actual client, client side, the actual phone, like syncs to the block headers and stuff like that, and it's you're not just completely trusting, a node and stuff. So it's like along those types, which ones are they going to try to enforce this on? I think if you'd ask them, because they're asking which ones should you have power over, I mean, they're going to be like all of them. But that's kind of ridiculous. They're not going to be able to do that either. And
right, yeah, like how are they going to stop one person from sending another person assets? I mean, I guess they could, they could enforce it for people who are new downloading the wallet, right? But they can't really stop someone who already has it. So basically, if I were in the EU right now, I would like download every crypto wallet.
Yeah.
Now.
Absolutely. Get it going. Especially, I know there's some, this is a rare thing with these Mo wallets because it just this just was never a problem. But there's a lot that let you choose which nodes you connect to. And so, for example, one thing that I think that, like a lot of like Lightning people use who don't want to trust other people because there's more trust involved in a mobile Lightning wallet than a mobile regular wallet, is they run their full node at home and then they just connect to it through their mobile device. And so the ability to choose your own node to basically make it where then there's no wallet providers anymore. There's just like open source wallets that are just out there, and then you get to connect to your own node, and there's people running nodes, and it starts to get back to the old like file sharing days, like the fun, dodging the man, putting VPNs so your ISP doesn't get mad at you for downloading movies and stuff. And we get back to that world until they finally break down and just like stop being so ridiculous. But at least this is just in the EU for now, and it's not enforced yet. There's a lot that has to happen. I just think that we're in for a bumpy ride, but I think we can get through it.
Well, and here's another point. Like, regardless of where you are in the world, right? We actually need more people who are really like, DeFi forward or pro crypto to try to get involved with lawmakers to help write reasonable laws. And I mean, like, that kind of goes against the whole crypto anarchist things. But the thing is, the government's not going away. So does it make more sense to just let them make up their own laws that are going to negatively impact us? Or does it make more sense to, recognize that they're not going to cease to exist and try to become involved in the lawmaking process so that maybe the laws are more favorable?
Yeah, and that's the other thing, though, about what is the government? Because the government is a concept, right? And it is a concept that rules the planet. That being said, obviously there's different jurisdictions as far as like there's a U.S. national government, there's the nations in the EU, there's the EU itself, there's Canada, there's all these places. But then there's also different like departments beneath that. Like there's the SEC, you got like the DOJ, you got the Treasury Department, you got a bunch of different things like that. And then they don't always have the same rules or whatever that they enforce on each other. Hopefully, I mean, in an ideal world, according to them at least, they would all work in concert, but they don't always. And then it's about, what about the individual administrations? Like what happens if, let's just say, take a like Italy, right? Italy just had that new prime minister who's a little bit of a firebrand and is definitely kind of anti a lot of this like stuff that the EU kind of stands for, I guess. And so what if they decide to, first off, leave the EU? I mean, that's always on the table. But what if they decide to just, we're not going to enforce this kind of stuff? Now that like that stuff will be different. What happens if there's, you know, a new administration in the US and then all of a sudden the SEC starts playing a different tune because there's like a different, you know, administration, different set of laws and stuff. And that kind of brings you to the story from a few weeks ago about Coinbase. The way Coinbase is mobilizing their entire user base politically now. They basically put a little thing on their app where it tells you who your representatives or people voting for or running for office are in your area and shows their positions on crypto and then shows you how to get involved to vote. And that's like hundreds of millions of people that now have that. It's a very bold move. It's just like Walmart deciding to put in a little thing about like right to work laws that allow you to not leave a union if you want to, for example. It's seeing like that would be a very aggressive move for a company. But Coinbase is jumping in there. I think they're seeing the handwriting on the wall that the various government agencies around the world are starting to come at crypto in a very, I guess, ignorant and destructive way. And you can decentralize around them, but that sets the adoption of technology back decades. And it's better to just stop them as much as you can right now and allow the space to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I missed probably the last sentence of.
Yeah. Was it a connection issue or did you just zone out because I ramble too much?
It was a connection issue. Okay. I didn't zone out. I know that I look like I zone out, but I didn't. I'm paying attention.
No, it's just that I have that like bedtime voice of like, you know, let me read you a story, children, blah, 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 the NPR type voice that just puts people to sleep. I even forgot what I said. Let's not even care. Let's move on. So
okay. On
the same subject though, same basic subject, EU regulators ban cross-border payments from Russian crypto accounts. In a statement on October 6th, regulators in the European Union banned all crypto asset wallets, accounts, and custody services from Russia. This is fun. So, I don't know if they know this, but crypto can't go to Russia. Like, it's not in Russia. It's on the respective blockchain, and like who accesses it from. Are they a Russian? Are they in Russia? Who knows? Definitely the crypto blockchain itself doesn't know. And so again, like, what is he going to do? Like Edge Wallet puts a note thing that says, warning, if you're trying to send to a Russian, this is banned and you will be caught, maybe, possibly. So don't do that. And then you just go send to a Russian anyway. And it's like,
I mean, I think really, like, the only people who it stops are, you know, custodial wallets, right? Like people, but I'm pretty sure that sanction already existed. So I don't really, and also VPNs, right? It's kind of like, I mean, like, I don't like this at all because whether you're, I mean, like, I don't know, for whatever reason, I get accused of being like pro-Russia all the time, but I'm not. I'm just like pro-human, right? Yeah. So I'm always trying to say things like, hey, maybe these sanctions are hurting people, and like those people are not necessarily in favor of this war. And like, if we want to, you know, help the people in the Ukraine, why are we not equally concerned about helping the people in Russia? And it's like, yeah, I get why these sanctions are, you know, you don't want to help the Kremlin, right? But like, you have to realize that the bigger impact is going to be on the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's absolutely true, especially when you have conscription coming to Russia or already there, and you have tons of people trying to flee the country because no one wants to fight. I mean, this happened in Vietnam, right, in the U.S. Before we try to pretend that the U.S. is somehow way better than Russia. I mean, maybe a little bit, but still. So people are fleeing the country. What if, like, let's just say you're a wealthy Russian businessman living in the U.S. You're a legal citizen, you're whatever. You have family back in Russia. And all of a sudden, like, your little cousins are going to be conscripted. and they can't get out of the country, and you want to send them some of your crypto so they can go use that to get out of the country, and like, well, you can't send it to Russians. And the thing is, what it doesn't affect is you can still send it to them. What it does affect is people who are not crypto savvy. What are they going to do with it once they get it? How are they going to turn it into something they can actually use to get out of the country? Like, then when you start hit those like KYC elements of the infrastructure, that's when it kind of hits in. And it's just like, well, where'd you get this from? And it's like, oh, whoops. And that's when it starts to hurt real people, in my view.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, it's like the other law, right? Like, it kind of misses the point. Like, also, and I mean, if they were able to effectively stop cross-border payments, like, crypto's done. It's dead. It died. Its purpose is defeated. We should all abandon it. Forget it. You know?
Yeah, I agree. If they can really stop that. And I think the reason they're able to kind of approximate that these days is because crypto's not widely adopted. And because, or especially as a payments method. I mean, it got, as an investment vehicle or speculative investment vehicle, it seems to be around, a lot of places and as other things, but as a payments method, no. And so because of that, you can relatively easily stop things that people do with the crypto. Like, how do you, because you got to sell it or something to get to actually turn it into something a lot of times. And so, but yeah, I mean, it kind of brings back the nostalgia to the early Bitcoin days of, not to start sounding like Roger Ver right now, but like Bitcoin used to work like this. But like back when everyone knew what it was for, and they were trying to send it as a remittance and then trying to go buy their coffee with it directly. And they weren't like all into this like Web3 degen stuff. And like back when it was simple and people were kind of going towards that, I think that it's going to, because we never conquered that use case. We just sort of like played around with it as a community, I should say. A lot of individuals never left, but like as a broader crypto community, we kind of played around with like, oh, look, decentralized money, I could send it anywhere, I could buy my coffee with it, and then just went, oh, ICO, oh, DeFi, oh, NFTs, and just started going to these other things. And I feel like the NFT infrastructure, for example, DeFi and NFTs are so much more adopted and well developed as far as like the infrastructure is concerned than just the basic like 2009 Bitcoin payments use case. And so at some point we got to come back around and take care of that part. And then I think that'll be in the next few years, hopefully.
Maybe the next cycle.
Yeah, that's kind of my top
so
prediction.
I like, by the way, totally agree with you and Roger on this point. Like a lot of people like dislike him. I've always liked him, like at least he's consistent, right? I get, and what he's saying is not incorrect. It's just the media, the crypto media, like really rallied there,
Yeah, that's definitely that's definitely true. And it's kind of funny how these cycles work, because all these coins got popular because of like, oh, better money. Is this one more private? Is this one faster and easier as payments? And then people kind of moved on, but the world is coming full circle to where, the world is getting as bad as like the 2009 to 2017 crypto world was selling the world as. And then, but the world wasn't as bad back then. But now the world is getting to there, and inflation is nuts. I mean, I just can't believe that people with like a 5, 6, 7% interest rate on a mortgage are like getting free money long term, because inflation is so horrible that over time, like things are getting crazy. People are getting censored. It's nuts, and it's just starting. And I think that we're going to start to see that come back, and all of a sudden people are going to be dusting off their old papers, be like, whoa, what's this Zcash stuff? What's this Monero stuff? What's this Dash stuff? What's this Bitcoin Cash? Like, they're going to start coming back to all that stuff.
I agree. I see a return to fundamental cypherpunk values, and I definitely see that. My computer is going to die. If I like just fall off, I didn't just
How much we got? Like 3 minutes, 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, well let's just wrap this thing up then. Let me scroll back down to here. So, as is tradition with this kind of thing, some people pointed out that it's kind of like a proof of work thing. So I sell NFTs so people can jump into the super chat and be part of my Discord and all this other cool stuff. But everyone who's on the show gets a special NFT that you can only get through proof of work. You have to be on here, contribute your work to this channel, and then you get a guest-only NFT. So I'm officially presenting you, yay, with the little digital cash rundown, little commemorative NFT thing. Fine little spinny golden microphone because, like Rush Limbaugh style, for those who remember back in the day, the golden microphone. But yeah, so I issued those right now on Wax and Polygon.
Okay, so you want me to send you my Polygon?
Whichever one works, and then after the show, I'll get that to you, and then you can just. Okay. It should have instructions on how to get into the Discord. So next show I have, you can be in there in the peanut gallery, sending out super chats and stuff like that, and
For the and so that you'll actually pay attention to me and not ignore me.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen you in the regular chats otherwise, so you've been ignoring me, but that's a different story. I know how it works. Yeah, so thanks a ton for being on the show. It was a good time.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, and I'm glad everything technically worked out today, and everything didn't die in a giant dumpster fire. So please be on again at some point. Everyone who's watching, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and watch out for next week. And
can I show something really quick?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have the SEC on speed dial. Oh,
so I work for a marketing and incubation and PR company. Mm-hmm. That's my main job. But I recently started, I don't know if, and probably nobody knows this, but I started my career in cryptocurrency as a journalist. And I recently started contributing to a new physical crypto magazine. It's called Crypto Mag. This is the edition that's on stands in the US right now. But so it's distributed worldwide. There's of course there's ads and stuff. So that's gonna bother you. I don't know. Don't buy it. But there's
Pure
also
GTFO. Just kidding.
So there's also, a lot of people who write for this magazine who are involved with a variety of different cryptocurrencies and have a whole bunch of different perspectives. And I do think that there's valuable information in here. So if it's something that isn't going to make you too mad, you can get it at Barnes and Noble and select Walmarts and 7-Elevens.
Yeah. I mean, is it universal in distribution? I'm going to find it anywhere?
So it's sold in, I don't live in a major hub, but I found it, I live, I'm not going to say where I live, but I live somewhere away from most people.
Costa Rica.
Yeah, right. And I did find it in Walmart here.
Nice. So you found it in Walmart. I'm not sure if I'll find it in Walmart here, but now that you mention it, I will look for it. Is that issue? Is there one of your articles in there?
There are, I think, 3 articles that I wrote.
And they have your name on it.
They have my name on it.
Well, I will buy one if I can, and if
there's a Barnes and Noble near you,
there is.
They will definitely have it.
It's right next door. So I'm picking up something at Best Buy actually, which is right next door to the Barnes and Noble. So
go to Barnes and Noble.
So I'll stop in, maybe even tomorrow. Right. That'll be fun.
Thanks. That'd be awesome. Thanks, Joel.
Yeah, so maybe I'll mint a little NFT, a spinny NFT, 3D NFT out of the thing, and give it to you or something. That'll be fun.
That would be amazing.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being on. Let's do the proper send off before your battery, goes out. Where could people follow you?
Oh yeah, okay.
And your work. Obviously, Crypto Mag, they can read it. Is there a site that people can see, and then also Twitter and stuff? Sure.
Yeah. So cryptomag.finance is the website. We also do a weekly magazine. It's called Crypto Weekly. I've written for there as well. That's all online. That's not a physical copy, and you don't have to pay anything, but you do have to subscribe. And that just means give them your email. On Twitter, it's CryptoMagZ. That's what their handle is. My handle on Twitter is nerdgirl007 with no vowels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, cool. Let me this is what the crypto magazine looks like right there. So yeah, go to Crypto Mag Finance, follow it nerdgirl007 on Twitter. And I mean, obviously, I've been tweeting about this show. So if you follow my Twitter at the Desert Links, you'll see the stuff in there. So, yeah, well, thanks a whole bunch for being on. We'll have you on in the future, of course. And everyone, thanks for watching. Hit up all the fun buttons, buy my NFT so I don't end up homeless some point. And yeah, have a good one, guys. Bye bye.